I'm not here to attack anyone's faith, but we need to talk about something incredibly uncomfortable. The people who died because someone convinced them that magic was more powerful than medicine. This isn't about religion. This is about grifters, charlatans, the snake handler's last service. Let's start with Jamie Coots, a Pentecostal pastor from Kentucky, who handled venomous snakes during church services, because apparently, Mark 16:18, they will pick up snakes with their hands, was less of a metaphor and more of a to-do list for him. Now, Jamie wasn't some first-timer. This man had been bitten 8 times before the final one. 8 times. That's not faith, that's a workplace safety violation. OSHA would have shut this operation down on day 1. But here's where it gets peak absurd. In 2013, Jamie was featured on a National Geographic reality show called Snake Salvation. Yes, someone at Nat Geo looked at a man juggling rattlesnakes in church and thought, this is fine. This is entertainment. February 2014, during a Saturday night service, Jamie got bit by a 3-foot-long rattlesnake. His hand swelled up like a balloon. His family called 911, but Jamie, committed to his beliefs, refused medical treatment. He died that night. Here's what kills me. Jamie's son, Cody, also handles snakes and has continued the practice. Because apparently, watching your dad die from a snake bite is not quite convincing enough evidence that maybe, just maybe, the snakes are trying to tell you something. The state of Tennessee literally made it illegal to handle snakes in religious services in 1947. But Kentucky was like, nah, we're good. And Jamie used to say, sign or no sign, I'm going to do what the Bible says. Buddy, the Bible also says not to put the Lord your God to the test, but here we are, the breatharian who forgot to breathe food. Meet Verity Lynn, a 49-year-old woman from Scotland who became a follower of breatharianism. For those blissfully unaware, breatharianism is the belief that you don't need food or water. You can survive on air, sunlight, and cosmic energy. I'll give you a second to process that. Yes, people actually believe this. Multiple people. It's a thing. Verity discovered breatharianism in 1999 and decided to go full send. She stopped eating. She went to a spiritual retreat in Scotland where a breatharian teacher was guiding people through the transition to living on air alone. Here's the thing about not eating. You die. I know, controversial take. But evolution spent millions of years developing this whole consume nutrients to not die system. And Verity thought she could outsmart it with positive thinking. She lasted several days before collapsing. By the time she got medical attention, it was too late. Cause of death, dehydration, and starvation. Shocking absolutely no one with a basic understanding of biology. But here's the kicker. The breatharian teacher who ran the retreat, she was regularly seen at local restaurants, because of course she was. You know what's great about being a guru? You can tell your followers to starve while you eat a burger. It's the perfect crime, really, except for the manslaughter part. The founder of the modern breatharian movement, Wiley Brooks, was once caught leaving a 7-Eleven with a Slurpee and a hot dog. His explanation: he was counteracting the poison in the air. Right, we've all been there. I'm not breaking my diet, I'm just absorbing the negative energy from this cheeseburger. The boy who diabetes didn't need medicine. This one's going to make you angry. Fair warning. Madeline Newman was 11 years old when she died in 2008 in Wisconsin. She had undiagnosed type 1 diabetes, and instead of taking her to a doctor, her parents prayed over her for a month while she deteriorated. By the time she died, Madeline was unable to walk, talk, or eat. She was on the floor, struggling to breathe. Her parents and other members of their online prayer circle were praying around her, convinced that God would heal her if they just believed hard enough. Someone eventually called 911, but Madeline was pronounced dead at the scene. The medical examiner said she had probably been unconscious for days before she died. Days. This child suffered for days. Her parents, Dale and Leilani Neumann, were convicted of second-degree reckless homicide. At their trial, Dale said, "If I go to the doctor, I am putting the doctor before God. I'm not believing what he said he would do. Here's my question. If God gave doctors the ability to heal, aren't you literally rejecting God's gift by refusing medical care? It's like drowning and refusing the life preserver because you're waiting for God to personally swim down and save you, while ignoring the fact that he sent you the freaking life preserver. The worst part? This wasn't an isolated incident. The Neumanns belonged to an online prayer group called Unleavened Bread Ministries, where multiple children had died from treatable conditions because their parents chose prayer over medicine. And before anyone says, but religious freedom, your religious freedom ends where your child's corpse begins, that's kind of a baseline. The exorcism that went too far. In 2003, an 8-year-old autistic boy named Terrence Cottrell Jr. died in Milwaukee during an exorcism because apparently his mother's pastor decided that autism was demon possession, and the appropriate treatment was not therapy or support, but rather restraining the child and crushing him. Pastor David Hemphill and his Faith Temple Church of the Apostolic Faith performed the exorcism. The ritual involved wrapping Terrence in sheets and pressing down on his chest to drive out the demons. They did this for over an hour while the child suffocated. Terrence died of mechanical asphyxiation. The medical examiner ruled it a homicide. Pastor Hemphill was charged with child abuse causing death. His defense? He didn't mean to kill the boy, he was just trying to help, because nothing says help like suffocating a child for an hour while his mother watches. Here's what gets me. Terrence wasn't violent. He wasn't dangerous. He was an 8-year-old boy with autism who needed support and understanding, not medieval torture disguised as spirituality. This is what happens when people decide that ancient superstitions are more reliable than modern medicine. Autism isn't demons. ADHD isn't demons. Mental illness isn't demons. These are medical conditions with treatments that actually work and don't involve crushing children. But sure, let's ignore the entire field of neuroscience because your interpretation of a 2,000-year-old text says disabilities are caused by evil spirits. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, right, this. This is what goes wrong. The fasting that never ended. Talia Nashua was a 25-year-old spiritual influencer from California who documented her 40-day water fast on social media in 2019. She had thousands of followers watching her spiritual journey. Cheering her on, she slowly destroyed her body in the name of enlightenment. Talia believed that extended fasting would give her spiritual clarity and connect her to a higher consciousness. She posted daily updates. Day 10. Feeling great. Day 20, experiencing visions. Day 30, transcending the physical plane. Day 37, she stopped posting. Concerned followers eventually contacted authorities who found her dead in her apartment. Cause of death: cardiac arrest brought on by severe malnutrition and electrolyte imbalance. Here's the thing about 40-day fasts. They're dangerous even when medically supervised. Without supervision, you're basically playing Russian roulette with every major organ system. Your heart needs electrolytes to beat. Your brain needs glucose to function. These aren't optional features of human biology. But the truly insane part? After she died, some of her followers claimed she had ascended to a higher plane and that her death was actually a spiritual victory. No, Karen, she didn't ascend. She died of starvation in her apartment because Instagram likes don't count as calories. Jesus allegedly fasted for 40 days in the desert. And even that story ends with angels coming to feed him because, spoiler alert, he needed food to survive. But Talia thought she could one-up the Son of God with willpower and herbal tea. The most tragic part? Her parents tried to intervene multiple times, but she blocked them on social media and refused to see them. She died alone, surrounded by wellness books and motivational quotes, believing she was doing something profound when she was actually just dying. The slapping miracle that wasn't in 2016, Danielle Carr-Gomm, a 71-year-old diabetic woman from the UK, attended a Paida Lajin workshop in Australia. For those unfamiliar, Paida Lajin is a Chinese healing technique that involves slapping yourself or being slapped to supposedly release toxins and cure diseases. Yes, you read that right, slapping. The cure for diabetes is apparently getting smacked around like you owe someone money. The workshop was run by Hongqi Xiao, a self-styled healer who convinced attendees that they could cure themselves of all ailments, including diabetes, if they just slapped themselves hard enough and long enough. He also encouraged them to stop taking their medications, because why rely on insulin when you have the healing power of a salt? Danielle, who had been diabetic for decades, stopped taking her insulin. She participated in intensive slapping sessions. She was slapped. She slapped herself. Everyone was slapping everyone. It was like Fight Club, but sadder and with worse medical outcomes. Within days, she fell into a diabetic coma and died. Hongqi Xiao was eventually convicted of manslaughter in Australia. But here's the kicker. This wasn't even his first victim. In 2015, a 6-year-old boy with diabetes died during one of his workshops in Sydney after his parents were convinced to stop his insulin treatments. A 6-year-old. Let me be crystal clear. If someone tells you that slapping yourself can cure a chronic illness, they are lying to you. If they tell you to stop taking medication that keeps you alive, they are trying to kill you. whether they realize it or not. Diabetes is manageable. Type 1 diabetics can live full, normal lives with insulin. It's literally one of the biggest success stories in medical history. But 2 people died because some guy convinced them that percussive maintenance was a better option than endocrinology. The sun gazing that burned out. Hira Ratan Manek, an Indian guru, popularized sun gazing, the practice of staring directly at the sun during sunrise or sunset for extended periods. He claimed he had eaten solid food since 1995 and survived entirely on solar energy like some kind of human houseplant. While Manek himself is still alive and has been caught eating multiple times, because of course he has, his teachings have led to numerous injuries and at least one confirmed death. In 2013, a devoted follower of Manek's teachings in Germany died after an extended sun gazing practice combined with fasting. The woman believed she could live without food if she absorbed enough sunlight, combining breatharianism with solar-powered nonsense. But forget death for a second. Let's talk about the hundreds of people who have permanently damaged their eyes from sun gazing. Ophthalmologists have documented case after case of solar retinopathy, irreversible damage to the retina from staring at the sun. Here's what your optometrist tells you from childhood. Don't stare at the sun. It's right up there with, yes, do not pet strange dogs, and look both ways before crossing. It's basic survival information. But spiritual gurus convinced people that ancient mystics had secret knowledge that makes them immune to the laws of optics. Newsflash, they don't. The sun doesn't care about your chakras. Ultraviolet radiation isn't impressed by your spiritual dedication. The worst part? Manek has been tested by doctors multiple times, and every time they catch him eating. In 2000, he was supposedly observed by doctors for 401 days, but it later came out that the observation was intermittent, and he had plenty of opportunities to eat off camera. So, people are going blind and starving to death trying to replicate the achievements of a guy who is literally just lying. It's like following a fitness influencer who photoshops all their pictures while telling you their secret is drinking celery juice, the crystal healing that crystallized into tragedy. In 2017, a California woman named Jade Eric went to a wellness retreat in Mexico to participate in a ceremony involving Kambo, a poisonous substance secreted by the Amazonian giant monkey frog. The retreat, run by a self-proclaimed shaman, claimed that Kambo could cleanse your aura, reset your chakras, and cure everything from depression to cancer. Kambo ceremonies involve burning small holes in your skin and applying the frog poison directly to the wound. The poison causes intense nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, rapid heartbeat, and in Jade's case, death. Jade died during the ceremony from cardiac arrest. She was 30 years old. The shaman running the retreat had no medical training, no certification, and no liability insurance. Just a white guy from California who did ayahuasca once and decided he was a spiritual healer. He's now facing manslaughter charges in Mexico. Here's what kills me about the wellness industry. It takes genuine indigenous practices, strips them of their cultural context and safety protocols, commercializes them, and sells them to desperate people looking for meaning or healing. Then when someone dies, everyone acts shocked. The Matses people of the Amazon have used Kambo for centuries, but they use it in controlled amounts, with specific preparations, and within a cultural framework that includes actual knowledge of the substance. They don't just burn holes in tourists and pour frog poison in while playing acoustic guitar. But we live in a world where people trust natural more than proven, where ancient wisdom sounds more appealing than clinical trials, where a guy with a drum circle is seen as more authentic than an oncologist. And look, I get it. Modern medicine can be cold, expensive, and impersonal. The pharmaceutical industry is often predatory. Healthcare systems are broken. I understand why people seek alternatives. But here's the thing. When you're dying, you want the alternative that works. And crystals, frog poison, and good vibes are not it. These 8 people died preventable deaths because someone convinced them that magic was real and medicine was optional. They died because grifters are everywhere, dressed up as gurus, pastors, and healers, selling false hope to vulnerable people. So here's my advice. Believe whatever you want. Pray, meditate, align your chakras, talk to crystals. I genuinely don't care. But when you get sick, go to a doctor. When your kid gets sick, take them to a hospital. Don't let anyone convince you that faith and medicine are opposites, because the universe doesn't negotiate, biology doesn't compromise, and death doesn't care how enlightened you think you are. Stay safe out there, and maybe don't take medical advice from anyone whose credentials include spiritually awakened, but not medical degree.